Hello and welcome to Master LP's Theater. Today, Grace and I discuss B.B. Gabor's self-titled debut album. Hello and welcome again to Master LP's Theater. Today we're going to be discussing B.B. Gabor and his self-titled album from 1980. This was quite a big album on CFMY. I'm wondering what you thought of it.
I believe that it would go very well with a glass of wine because it was very cheesy. That being said, I don't see that as a bad thing. I thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I think Metropolitan Life was like the perfect way to start it. I found it was actually my favorite song of the album. It made you want to dance in your seat no matter what. But I think it was really quite varied overall. I know in past episodes we've talked about, sort of the balance between you want to have a uniform sound, but you also want to sound different enough that your audience is going to still be interested. And I think this kind of swings a little bit too much towards the confusing and different sort of end of that scale.
It's interesting you describe it that way because I think if you were to look at BB as an artist and as a human being, that precisely describes him. He did have some mental problems. I think he was a manic depressive. And I don't know if you know the band The Extras.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, The Extras put out a song called Circular Impression, which was probably one of the world's best odes to condoms. And they were his backup band.
Okay.
And they showed up for the first day of recording this album, and all their equipment was in the parking lot. He got overnight. He decided he was going to get other musicians. Had told them, and they showed up, and all their stuff was there, and they were fired. Now, this album, I really like this album. And back in the day, Moscow Drug Club and Yet Soviet, there's a life to those songs. Again, he was a guy who just was out there, unrestrained, and part of it was probably this mental problem he had. And after his second album was not nearly as good as this one. And after that, I mean, he still had a lot of promise, and he had songs covered by other bands. And in fact, Bob Segarini, who was involved with this channel, he was a member of Bob Segarini's band for about 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And there were a lot of false starts for a third album, and he moved to Vancouver, and his family broke up, and Todd Rundgren was going to produce his third album at one point, and a couple of other people, and he just never could get it together, and eventually he killed himself, which is just sad because, I mean, you can, perhaps more me than you, see that there's so much talent in this guy.
There's definitely a lot of unique stuff going on here. And I think I want to clarify, part of where the cheesiness comes in for me is simply that very 80s sound of like the synths and specifically there was one that literally reminded me just so kitschy. I believe it was Laser Love.
Laser Love.
Like it comes off just a little bit kitschy in a certain sense, but it also comes off as playing with the genre and playing with like what can and can't be listened to in a certain sense. And
in its day, that got quite a bit of radio play, Laser Love.
Well, it's fun. That's the thing.
No, the whole album is kind of a fun album.
With one exception. I did not like his cover of Big Yellow Taxi. It lost everything.
It's different. Now, I hated Timberlake's cover.
Justin Timberlake did a cover of
I believe he has a cover of Big Yellow Taxi. This was an interesting take. It was different.
It felt almost like when Will Shatner does covers of things a little bit to me.
I didn't think it was that bad.
It wasn't a Rob Schneider level. It just, to me, it lost what makes it an interesting song. Like we lost the things that make people want to listen to Big Yellow Taxi. I really wanted the bop bop bops to come in, and it just never really got there.
I'll give him that. He took a chance.
Definitely.
And that was played a bit on the radio too. I mean, a lot of the songs from this album were played on the radio because they're very likable songs.
Oh yes, I mean,
Yet Soviet, and a lot of people thought it was jewelry. as opposed to jewelry.
Oh,
You
no.
know, well, it's very hard to hear it.
Oh, no, definitely. It
Especially
did
on the
not.
old cheesy radio.
No.
But, I mean, Moscow Drug Club is just such a goofy song.
Yeah.
And
oh, my goodness.
I don't know, you can't help but not like that song.
It's definitely fun. Like, that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
you definitely felt fun. Even though it was a little bit disparate in its sound in places,
Yes.
I think it was an enjoyable listen no matter what. Like, again, exception of Big Yellow Taxi. But that is a personal opinion.
Yeah, no, and I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I think it also had like a through narrative, you know, like these were all connected by a theme, and unlike certain other albums, you know, he kept on theme. Like you could feel a very specific vibe from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this album 7.5.
Yeah, I think I sit there with you as well. It's definitely, there are times where you got to be in the mood for any given one of the songs. Again, except for Metropolitan Life, I could listen to that all day. It just gets me going.
It's a very cute song.
Yeah, but yeah, it's. I think it's really solid, really well put together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go with the cover. What do you think?
It's nothing special, but it's well executed. So, and again, it feels very 80s to me, like just very 80s. So I'd give it like a 6.5.
I gave it an 8. And again, because the 80s was a magical time musically for me, and you know, the late 70s, early 80s, it does have, it's nice and sparse. I like the white in it against the black and white. It's very clean looking in certain ways, and it's one of those albums, I think if you saw it, it stands out if you see it in a rack, which in those days you would, you know, albums were in racks, and I can see how people would gravitate to this. I gave it an 8. I thought it was a little better than you did, of course, but I have that history with it.
Though, now that you've said that, I can see what you're saying. I may bump it up to a 7. Again, I still don't think it's anything special, but I can see somebody putting this on their wall. Like at my last apartment, we had a wall of records, and they were very varied in like what we were looking at. But we did gravitate towards albums that had a striking image that was sort of central to it, and I think that's exactly what we've got here. So, 7.
She's wavering. It could be 7.5 if you came back tomorrow.
Who knows?
Yes. So there's our episode. I hope you liked it. I hope you get some information. And I think we both agree that this is well worth checking out. A great artist, a tragic loss. So join us next time. This is Grace Bevan and myself for Master LP's Theater.